We've already been forced to be this guy's test subjects by having to share the same roses as spontaneously exploding cars. Very awesome. This dynamic is now official government policy. Yeah. Musk, we will make mistakes. We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we fix it quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled briefly was Ebola prevention. I feel like it's getting to a point where I guess if everyone is crazy, then the only sane people remaining are going to be seen as the abnormal people. Like, that is increasingly what is happening. If everyone is stupid, then, you know, if you're not as stupid as your fellow Americans, then you're going to be looked at like a weirdo. That is officially where we are. Things that people are saying, like, everything is just getting dumber and dumber. Oh. It's sad to see people just clap for their own demise, you know? That's what kills me about it. Like, so many people look at this and go, no, this is good. They're shaking things up.
But what we are trying to get to the bottom of is we think there are a number of people on the government payroll who are dead, which is probably why they can't respond. And some people who are not real people, like they're literally fictional individuals that are collecting paychecks. Well, somebody's collecting paychecks.
I'm dying, dude. It's just, again, I'm going to repeat this point, but lying is OP. Please nerf. You can just straight up say whatever you want. Nobody's going to fact check you. What are you going to do? You're going to write an op-ed at the Washington Post? Nope, you can't do that. Jeff Bezos decided that is not allowed anymore, okay? New York Times is too busy eating Israeli propaganda on a daily basis. Where are you going to go? Who is going to correct the record on this? Does he know he's lying or does he believe this? I don't know. He's probably too stupid to know the truth, but it doesn't matter. Like, the notion that there are, you know, tens of thousands of people that are working at the federal government and getting paychecks that are just simply dead is insane. If that was the case, they wouldn't have mass fired probationary employees, okay? They would have immediately hired people, because that's how you're supposed to do this. For the record, just so you understand, the way you're supposed to do this, if you were to do this at all, which I'm not an advocate for like mass firing of federal government employees, but if you wanted to do that, if you wanted to figure out if there was any fraud happening, you would have to hire people, not just like a bunch of Doge dickheads, but like actually hire auditors, okay? Forensic accountants, auditors that would have to go to these highly specialized fields and talk to the management to figure out and make an accurate assessment of who is actually working and who is not, okay? They're not doing any of that because the goal is to just rip it apart. You can't just like do an audit by being like, yeah, send me an email and I will have AI go through it. This is a process that is long, arduous, takes months, okay? Very complicated. It's not just something you break, because when you break the federal government, when you break the regulatory agencies, when you break the administrative state, the impact of that is far more vast than you think, okay? Having said that, however, the notion that there are tens of thousands of dead people working for the federal government and just like collecting a paycheck is ridiculous. It's a logical extension of the lies told by average Republicans as well, for the record. Do you think they actually believe their own lies? I don't care. I don't care if they believe their own lies or not. What I care about is the dumbass Americans who eat this up and they think, no, this is great. I actually do believe it. There are fictional employees that are getting paychecks from the federal government by the tens of thousands. Like, will they be able to find one or two people? I'm sure. And you'll know. If they find one or two people, they will publicize it.
Paychecks on a fictional individual. So we're just literally trying to figure out, are these people real? Are they alive? And can they write an email? Which I think is a reasonable expectation for the American public would have at least that expectation of someone in the public sector. It's not a high bar, guys, come on.
How many million employees have responded so far to this email? Does that mean that the remaining 1 million or so federal employees now risk being terminated? And is it your understanding and expectation when you post a directive on X that the cabinet secretaries will follow that order? Because several agencies have instructed employees that this is voluntary or not to respond.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I guess there was like last week, the president encouraged me via Truth Social and also via phone call to be more aggressive. And I was like, okay, yes, sir, Mr. President, we will indeed do that. The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks. And I said, can we send out an email to everyone just saying, what did you get done last week? And the president said yes, so it did that. We got a partial response. We're going to send another email. But our goal is not to be capricious or unfair. We want to give people every opportunity to send an email, and the email could simply be, what I'm working on is too sensitive or classified to describe. Like literally just, that would be sufficient. I think this is just common sense.
And what is your target number for how many workers, employees you're looking to cut total?
We wish to keep everyone who is doing a job that is essential and doing that job well. But if the job is not essential or they're not doing the job well, they obviously should not be on the public payroll.
I'd like to add, wait a minute. I'd like to add that those million people that haven't responded, though, Elon, they are on the bubble. I wouldn't say that we're thrilled about it. They haven't responded. Now, maybe they don't exist. Maybe we're paying people that don't exist. Don't forget, we just got here. This group just got here. But those people are on the bubble, as they say. Maybe they're going to be gone. Maybe they're not around. Maybe they have other jobs. Maybe they moved and they're not where they're supposed to be. A lot of things could have happened. I wouldn't say that Biden ran a very tight administration. They spent money like nobody's ever spent money before, wasted money. The Green New Scam, all of the different things they spent money on. And you've seen that. You've seen that with some of the things that I read in speeches. I read them and people can't believe when I read them. 20 million here, 30 million here for, a little educational course on something. Circumcision, right? Circumcision.
What?
$20 million to inform the people of such and such a country on other things and other things other than that. So, those people are, right now we're trying to find out who those people are that haven't responded. Now, there'll be some age.
Bro, this country is run by the stupidest people. Oh my God. This country is run by absolute dumbasses and a sea of absolute dumbasses who love these absolute dumbasses and are just going, hell yeah, king. Hell yeah, king. Do the damn thing. On those libtards. Hell yeah, brother. Oops, I lost my job. Probably because of trans people and woke. Oh man, if only there were no trans people, then I wouldn't have lost my federal government job.
Agencies like Marco has people within state that are right now doing very classified, very confidential work, and we understand that. We've talked, and we're being a little more surgical. And Marco's doing a lot of things himself. And some of the secretaries, we're going to be going to them. We're going to be talking about it today. We're going to ask them to do their own Doge. In other words, they'll look in their group and I spoke with Lee Zeldin, and he thinks he's going to be cutting 65% or so of the people from environmental. And we're going to speed up the process too at the same time. You had a lot of people that weren't doing their job. They were just obstructionists, and a lot of people that didn't exist, I guess, Lee, too. You found a lot of empty spots that the people weren't there. They didn't exist. And I think education is going to be one of those. You go around Washington, you see all these buildings for the Department of Education. We want to move education back to the states where it belongs. Iowa should have education. Indiana should run their own education. You're going to see education go way up. Right now, we're ranked at the very bottom of the list, but we're at the top of the list in one thing, the cost per pupil.
Cost per pupil. Yeah. We're at the bottom of the list, which is true, which is why we should not move in the direction of what those other countries are doing, robust, expansive public education across the board, but instead move in the direction that made our education worse to begin with, which is rampant privatization, budget cuts, charter schools that are unaccountable. Okay? Incredible stuff. We are, once again, advocating for our own demise. Over and over again. And people clap for this like seals, dude. It is crazy.
Spend more money per pupil than any other country in the world. And yet it's Denmark and Norway, Sweden. And I hate to say this. And
you hate to say it.
And we're going to get along very well with China. But it's a competitor. They're at the top of the list. They're among the top 10, usually. And they're a very big country. So we can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why Chinese education is at the top of the list, dude. What could it be? I wonder what it is. Why did China ban after-school tutoring? China has announced an outright ban on for-profit tutoring services for core school subjects. Xi Jinping's government also reveals strict new rules for governing how non-profit tutoring can be carried out. But why has China taken this step? To alleviate the pressure on young people, to increase the birth rate, to protect the country's interests. It's also to ensure that everyone is getting the appropriate amount of education from public schooling. China doesn't want to do pay-to-win education. Not only that, but even outside of private tutoring services, the Chinese education structure is still hyper-focused on having a robust public education system. Obviously, Confucianism spans back thousands of years at this point in terms of like early established understanding of a meritocratic approach. In some ways that has not changed, and I'm sure that there is a cultural argument that many people will make, but ultimately they have an underlying robust public education structure. And it's not just China. I don't like using China as an example because a lot of people immediately hit xenophobic notes on it, okay? Look at Norway. Look at Finland, okay? If you want to understand, look at the white nations, okay? Look at European nations that consistently outperform the United States of America. Even if there are private education alternatives in these countries, okay? They're very rare, or the ones that do have a private-public partnership are heavily regulated, heavily. And of course, those countries are also suffering from the same austerity and the same privatization initiatives that have taken root in the United States of America in this cancerous way many decades prior. If we have the highest cost per student, why is ours worse? It's the same as healthcare. Literally, every social service that the American government offers is not only more expensive than it should be because of costly middlemen and private public partnerships that also rely on government subsidies, but also partially because, obviously, in comparison to other countries, American salaries are higher as well. Doesn't matter because the cost of living is also significantly higher, and the government doesn't make up for any of those needs that the people have with any sort of social safety nets whatsoever. Like, one of the greatest examples I can give you is transportation, right? Most competent governments will have public transit as an alternative. It's a infinitely more affordable alternative. Most of these countries that we're talking about have walkable cities and public transit. In America, you got to have a car, okay? We don't have, here, another example, we don't have childcare, like government provided childcare at all, okay? So you have to pay for daycare. That's, again, an additional cost. If you're a teacher with a child, you now have to also have this additional cost. There are so many different reasons as to why, although our salaries are higher in comparison to our European counterparts, the cost of living is significantly higher as well. All of that, of course, factors into our expansive GDP, but it doesn't necessarily yield benefits for the average living conditions of the average American. Can you explain something I'm missing? Where the fuck did there are people missing, people are not there, or fake people that don't exist talking point come from? I feel like this came out of nowhere and suddenly is an accepted thing. Is this just lying is overpowered? Yes. Everything is busted.